Record on the computer. All right. Yeah, good. We're recording now. There's maybe a red dot on your screen.
I see it.
Good. Welcome, everybody. Oh, my goodness. This is like the first virtual meeting of the Game Makers Guild ever, maybe.
First of probably many to come.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be great. Don't worry. Yeah, so for those of you that are joining us, haven't been in a while or are far away, welcome. We're so excited to have you guys all. We're going to be doing something totally different tonight compared to our normal nights because obviously we cannot be physically present around a table playtesting games. So the leadership team decided to get together and set this video conference up to learn Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia. So our thought is that, with the current situation of everybody, locked inside their living residences, we could, at the very least, teach you all how to use some of these incredible tools to, build out your prototypes, get other people in on the action, and just find a new avenue for playtesting. Make the most of the time while we are in the situation we find ourselves in. And I mean, for what it's worth, I think Steam had its highest concurrent users on Sunday, and Tabletop Simulator sales have been off the charts. So
which is actually not a positive. It's been crashing regularly now.
Does everything have
Sorry
to
to bring the
one
negative
central server?
Maybe. Well, at the very least, the time is ripe for the harvest, perhaps. So while they're working on making their servers better, we can learn how to build our games. So tonight, Andrea's going to be covering Tabletop Simulator. She's going to be going first. And then we've got Gino joining us from Nashville, Game Makers Guild, and he's going to be talking through Tabletopia. And so we're going to get that kicked off in just a minute. As an FYI, we are recording this, so I would recommend just keeping your mics muted unless you got a question. There is a raise hand feature somewhere.
If you click on, go to the bottom and click on participants, and then at the bottom of the list of participants, there's a raise hands button.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
I'm going to try it so you can see how it works, Jamie.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I can see the little hand on my thing. Got it. Okay, cool. So you can raise your hand, or you can put your video on and just wave at us if you can't figure out how to do that. We're flexible here. Figure it out. So other than that, does anybody have any questions or any announcements, anything going on in the world of board gaming? Nothing. Cool. Oh, yeah, as a quick FYI, some of the things that I paper prototyped at Game Makers Guild, I'm actually releasing a Steam game on April 1st. So check out the 100-player Twitch chat party pack. And, that's some stuff that I actually tested at GMG, and it turned into a video game.
Congratulations.
Pretty good.
Let me throw one thing out there. The Indie Games Alliance group is putting together a free all-online board game convention for later this month. I think it's called Unconventional. And if you go to my Twitter feed, EJF Tweets, I've got a link to it there if anybody's interested in that. And I'll also toss it up in the GMG Facebook.
There are also a lot of various small design contests starting to pop up as everyone is stuck at home and people are trying to put out things to do. So I will work on accumulating a list of those and trying to post that at some point.
Awesome. Yeah, keep us posted. Sweet. All right. Well, without further ado, Andrew, I'm going to give you control. I think you can screen share.
Let's see if I know how to use technology. Please ignore how many various windows I have open on my computer.
All right, the floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah. All right, that is not the window we want to open. We want that one. Can you all see Tabletop Simulator now?
Yeah.
Sweet. So, a basic overview for those who have never used this before is it's a tool for playing board games online where you can do it either online with with people who are not physically present, or there's a hot seat mode if you want to play with people who are in the same residence as you and just pass the one computer around. The controls are rather complicated. Imagine you are a new robot just learning how to work in the world. Like, there's real physics and you have to learn how to pick up everything and put it down, and you don't know how to use your hands. So there's definitely a learning curve. Be patient with it. It tries to implement real life physics as well as possible, which I have yet to actually try most dexterity games on here, but I'm very curious. I have played, they call it reverse Jenga. They couldn't actually quite make it so that you could pull pieces out of the Jenga tower, so they instead made it so you try to build the Jenga tower. So that's pretty entertaining if you want a good laugh while you practice the controls. There are a lot of YouTube series that also cover pretty much exactly what we're going through tonight and maybe some more detail beyond that. So if you want a refresher beyond what Jamie's recording right now, that is available to you. So I guess I'm first going to go to Steam. We're going to do basically how to play using Tabletop Simulator, and then I'll go into a lot of how to load a game. So I'm going to go to Tabletop Simulator in Steam. To get games, you go to the workshop, and then you can search for basically any game here. I'm going to try and find Catan because it's a good game to show you all like lots of types of pieces. So to get a game, you just mouse over it and click the little green plus button. And that's pretty much all you need to do here. And then I'm going to go back to Tabletop Simulator. I can go create. Typically, you would do multiplayer. You would give it a server name and a password so that only your friends get into it, not random other people. You can go joining random games if you want. Because we've been having so many issues with multiplayer servers crashing lately, I am just going to demo it in a single player for now. So if I were to go in here, let's try and just load Catan. So I'm going to choose it, I'm going to load it, and it's going to take a minute. All right. Okay, so this is what a game looks like in here. You can see there's a table. I can right click to move the table all around, change my view. I can also use WASD to move and the middle mouse wheel to zoom. There's a whole bunch of controls in here in which most of them have a keyboard version and a mouse version. So if you forget the keyboard controls, somewhere in this bar to the left or by right clicking on the item you're trying to interact with, you should find the mouse version of the control. So going back, when you first load the game, one player is going to be the host. Typically for us, it's going to be the game designer is going to host their own game. Only the host needs to have a copy of the game. So don't worry about like trying to find and subscribe to anyone's games or any of that. The host also has additional controls that the players will not have, such as I can go in here to permissions and turn off table flipping so that my players don't flip the table halfway through the game. If I don't do that, inevitably, whether on purpose or by accident, someone's going to hit this little button up here. It flips and it just keeps falling. If that happens, there's usually an autosave. So I can just load it right back to where it was. Nope, just kidding. So it autosaves about every 2 to 3 turns in most games I've found. So if you're experiencing a lot of issues in Tabletop Simulator crashing more often, you're going to want to start saving. I'm going to do a quick run through of as many controls as I can think of quickly. So the one you're going to want the most is Alt Zoom. Alt Zoom, if you mouse over anything, will just, if I just put my mouse over anything to highlight it and I press the Alt key, it's going to zoom in and show me exactly what I'm looking at face up, which is great for looking at tiles, cards, any of that. You do have a hand in here. Everyone can see where you're pointing. So you can't really secretly look at stuff, but it's the same as if you were sitting around a table and looked at something. So some of the typical things, here we have a deck. You can see there's a bunch of cards in the deck. If I right click, I can hit shuffle. You can also do that just by mousing over till it's highlighted and pressing R on your keyboard. R does roll and it does shuffle. It functions for both. It's basically a randomize. So like a die, I could do this and hit roll and it's gonna do that for me. The other way to roll with dice is I can grab this by clicking on it with my left mouse button. I can click down quickly with my right mouse button to pick up a second. I now am holding 2 dice. I can shake them and just roll like that. Or if I want to roll 2 with R on the keyboard, you highlight, so that can highlight any number of things. Now I can move them all together. No, that's not working, but okay. So see, I can move these 2 together like that. So you can highlight and roll multiple things at once. Flipping. If I have a card in front of me and I need to flip it over, I'm going to press F on my keyboard. Or I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit flip. Okay. Sometimes you might need to group cards. So if I have in my hand here, let's say I need to play all 3 of these. I'm not sure why, because you would never need these 3 together in Catan, but we're gonna go with it. I could just oh my God. I can just highlight and hit the letter G, which is gonna put them all together in a pile. And then I can put them out on the table. Whoops. When trying to move a full deck at once, if you click quickly and move it, it grabs 1 card. If you instead click and hold, you can grab and move a whole pile at once. So I can pick up a deck and move it across the table if I need to. So that's one way to draw then, is to grab a card and just put it in your hand. The other way would be to mouse over the deck, and if I just hit the number 4 on my keyboard, it's going to give me 4 cards. In my hand, F works the same way to flip a card over. So what you're seeing here is called a hand zone. Most games have them pre-set up, where you draw cards into your hand and they're going to appear on the table as well as right at the bottom of your screen. So as I move the whole table, these all stay right here. If I were, let's say I'm sitting at a different position at the table, here's what I would see for that hand. I just see the backs of the cards. So even though when I was sitting over here, I could see the front, this player only sees the back, and that's how your hands are private.
Does that mean other players can rotate the table to see your hand?
I mean, yeah, that's the same as,
Okay.
So again, this works as if you're sitting around a real table playing a game.
Okay.
Someone could stand up and walk around the table and look at your hand. You can also grab cards out of people's hands. So like if there was another hand over here, oh, they don't have any more. There we go. If there's a hand over here, I can grab a card out of it.
Oh, yeah. No, I guess my concern wasn't people cheating, but just hitting the wrong control and accidentally spinning the table.
So to change colors, you actually have to go up and click on your name, hit change color, and then select what color you want to be. So it's not a likely control. It's going to get hit by accident.
Okay.
You also will sometimes need to change colors if, so like this game has, it looks like white, blue, orange, and red. If you then load a different game and the people who created the game had like green, purple, whatever, your color might just be gone. So you don't have a seat at the table. You're gonna have to go to change color and select a seat. Let's see. If you put, why is it? Oh, okay. There's a hex. So if you put a hex out here, see how it doesn't fit quite right? You might need to use E and Q to rotate until it fits. So E and Q do rotate while WASD move the table. I assume most of you are fairly familiar with those controls.
Will R shuffle the stack of tiles?
Yes. So
Okay.
if I mouse over a bag, oh, actually, they don't have it set up in this one. Yeah, they do. Okay. So yeah, I go there and shuffle. For some reason, mousing over it, it's not highlighting right now, but in
Oh, the
most games it
hexes are
will.
in that bag. Okay, I thought it was a
Yes.
pile of hexes. Okay.
Yeah, this is a little weird. They just used like, so this is a tile that they pinned to the board to indicate that the tiles are in this bag.
Okay, so anything other than cards and dice that need to be randomized have to be put in a bag.
Yeah, I mean, you could do tiles and flip them all upside down and they'd function a lot like cards, but the bags are fairly helpful and they look really neat because you can pull the stuff out and put it back in.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. So another helpful thing to know is, let's say I had this card face down in front of me. and I wanted to look at it without picking it up. I'm gonna hit Alt and press Shift. So I'm holding Alt and Shift at the same time. Now I can see that card, no one else can. And it puts a little eye symbol of my player color over it. So if you go peeking at anyone else's cards, they're gonna know. Now one of the more fun and silly functions, we have flick. So if I go over on this toolbar, you have a bunch of different options. You want to always be on grab when you're playing. That's how 90% of the game is played. So if you select any other options, make sure you always go back to that. Here we have a drawing tool, so I could like write on the board if I need to. We have a text tool, so I've used this to like label players before. Or like I was playing a social deception game and we used it to take notes on like, this person failed mission 2, right in front of their player on the board.
Forever living with the shame.
Oh, it was hilarious. It was great. But so over here, this is the funny one. This is what makes me want to try and play dexterity games on here. It's the flick tool. You get this little flick finger and you can drag a line back and flick items. They just go flying across the table. It really makes me want to try playing like pitch car or something on here. If anything goes over the edge of the table, like that die just did, it ultimately respawns somewhere on the table. So I threw that blue die off and it respawned right here. So you don't have to worry about like if you're trying to put a card down on the edge and it falls over, it's going to come back somewhere. It's not gone forever. If you flip the table and need to get back again, it's just right back in here. So now we have an autosave of Catan that's fairly recent, but from before I started flicking things conveniently. If you have a game set up for, so some games, the table size is pretty consistent across all games. So you might have a pretty congested table for some. So like I like to go in and delete all the stuff for players that are not in the game. So like if no one was blue, I'd go in here and I'm just gonna hit delete on all this stuff. And that clears up the table space. And now blue player is gone. So in this
To make a custom table size?
So there's not really a custom table size, but you can adjust the size of the components that you put on the table. So you can always just make your game smaller and the table's gonna feel bigger.
Got it.
And then you're just gonna have to like zoom in further to be able to see the pieces and whatnot.
That's the case for playing a game, or also the case when creating mods for our own games?
When creating.
Okay.
There are a few different table options. You can change the shape, but the size is more controlled by the size of the things you put on it than the actual table. So some games will do setup for you. Like when you load it, it might say for a 2-player game, click here or something like that, and then it's going to do all the setup for you. I'm actually surprised that this one doesn't have it ready to preset, like to put all the hexes on for you. But I mean, some are just more polished than others. So I think that's it for how to play a game. So do we have any questions on that before I jump into how to load your prototype?
Are there any like chat functions or like video call functions built into Tabletop Simulator?
No, but it is compatible with Discord, so it'll pop up with whoever you're talking to in the upper left here and like show who's talking.
Okay.
Do you have to get it? I'm sorry.
There actually is somewhere. I think, oh, down here, there's a way to do like, there's a basic chat window just for typing.
There's also notes in the lower right, but
Yep.
I don't think that's public.
No, I think, I've never actually used the notes, but yeah, it's right here. So yeah, I can edit this. Any more questions?
Do you have to get it through Steam? Is there are there other ways you access Tabletop Simulator?
That's the only way I know of. Does anyone else know? No, that's the only way I've seen.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
thanks.
it's a Steam exclusive, and it's $20, if that.
They've been doing various sales now that everyone's stuck at home. I think it was $10 for like one day over the weekend, and then it was $15 yesterday.
Oof, I feel ripped off.
I've seen it in the Humble Bundle before too. And
Yeah.
if you get it in there, then you get it for, well, you pay what you want for it usually.
Yep, so that is that. So I guess we're gonna just jump into how to load a game. So I'm gonna go back here. The way to put your game in here is to essentially open an existing game, as in we're gonna open a game that's actually basically a blank table. We're gonna edit it as much as we want to make it our game and then save it. So to do that, I'm gonna go to Classic and I'm gonna go to Custom. I don't want to put any of this in yet. I'll do it momentarily. So I'm actually then going to take and delete everything so that I can start on a completely fresh board. So now we have a blank table. Almost everything you want is going to be up here under Objects. This is going to be everything to load stuff into your board or into your table. So I'm going to start with tables. I can choose a table shape. Maybe I want a round table or a hexagon. I'm going to stick with the rectangle for now. You can also do a custom, which I believe will let you load images onto the table. I have not tried that. So we're just going to go with this table for now. Pretty simple. We can give it a background because it looks like we're in a weird factory right now, and maybe we want to be in a field. Completely irrelevant, but if you care about theme and like want to set the theme for your game, that's how you do it. You can load custom backgrounds too. And then 90% of what we're doing is going to be in here under components. So in here we have almost everything that you can put into your game. The first thing we are going to touch on is boards. So you can go any custom stuff you want to load, you can either do under what they are. So here's the custom board option, or you can access it under, there is a full custom pack that has board, tile, token, all of the things here. So I'm going to start by doing a board. I've only loaded one game into Tabletop Simulator before, and it is Jay's game, Witch's Coven. So I got his permission to reload that as the example for tonight with some additional parts because it has no dice or tokens, and we want to touch on all those things. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go and select my image. Tabletop Simulator accepts JPEG or PNG files. So I'm going to go in here, and I saved earlier, I saved an image file that's just Witch's Coven board. And I'm going to select that. I want to select cloud because it says local files will not work for multiplayer. And I'm going to go to upload and import. And it's going to take a minute and it's going to put it sideways. So boards are the only thing that comes in pre-pinned. That means it's stuck to the table. I can't move it. So like see if I mouse over it, I can't flip it. I can't rotate it. So you're going to have to right click on it and go to toggles and unlock it. Now I can move it. So I'm going to rotate it so it faces the same way as the table by just pressing E. You can use either the scale option over here or the plus minus on your keyboard to change the size of things. So if I want the board to be a lot smaller, I can do that. And then I can relock it. That way players can't edit the board. The next object we care about
Only the host can lock and unlock things?
I believe so. There are a lot of controls and permissions that are host only. I don't even know if players can like delete elements on the table.
Well,
I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly what's host versus everyone else because I pretty much always hosted this past week, but yeah, a lot of it is, and it's hard enough to find that no one's really going to do it. Another thing worth turning on is this is snap. So you can turn on a grid and have objects snap to snap points on the grid. There's a better way to get to that. Yeah, so under options, you can do grid. You can choose whether you have hexagon pieces or square pieces. I can turn on the grid lines so we know where it's going to snap to. We can change a lot of settings, but that's basically so that if I have a card on here, let's just grab playing card. It should, okay, it's not doing it, but it is.
It says snapping off in the third to bottom row.
Thank you. Okay, so that's how you do it. So you put it to center, and then when you move a card, it's going to snap to certain spots. So that is great for all of you that want your cards to line up perfectly. Because if it's off, oh my God.
Do you know if snapping is client side or server side?
I don't know. But yeah, so here they're not going to line up. So that's something that I would honestly turn on all games. It sometimes dictates whether or not I will play a game. So I tried to play Agricola and they did not have snapping on. So trying to put the stupid edges around your you build like a little farm and you have to put the fences around it and try to put all those pieces on with no snapping is miserable.
I think I missed, how do you control the grid size to make sure the snapping matches your actual game components?
Grid size is down here.
Okay. And it's one grid for the whole thing. You can't make different parts of your board.
So you can make the grid visible though, so that as you line everything up, you can line it up to the grid.
Okay.
So like I could have done that first and then lined the board up appropriately. So actually, why don't I go ahead and unlock it, and if I make it slightly smaller, it should line up to the grid now. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the grid lines off just because I don't like seeing them. So next component we have, yeah, we'll go into doing a deck. So I'm actually gonna show you the deck builder tool first. The best way to get to it is to go to Steam and if you right click on Tabletop Simulator, you can go to Manage and Browse Local Files, which does all the navigating for you. It's going to open this, and you go straight into Modding, which is where you're going to access your deck template, your dice template, and your deck builder. So the deck templates look like this. It's literally just an image file that you're going to take into Photoshop or whatever image editing tool you use, and you want to put all of your cards in here, the faces of your cards, so that they line up with the lines. The last slot is for what other players will see when a card is in your hand. So you can have it be the card back, or you can just put a question mark there, whatever you want it to be. The easier way to do this is through the deck builder, which I will demonstrate real quick here. So this is a tool that's going to do it for you if and only if you have all of your cards saved as image files that are all the same size. So if you have them saved as like different pixel sizes, it's not going to work. So for this, I have Jay's other game up because I was halfway through putting it on. And this is really easy. You just have to open your files and start dragging them in. So instead of editing with trying to line them up to the lines, this does it for you if your files are the right size. So we're just going to put...
Pokemon game?
Yeah, he's working on it. So I put in there 5 cards. That's all I need for now. I'm going to go File, Export, and save it in here. I'm just going to save it over this one because that was my practice earlier. So I'm saving it as Pokemon Test Deck. And then I can close right out of here. Go into Tabletop Simulator, Custom Deck. And I would go to Pictures, find where I saved it. And it is right here. I'm actually not going to load that one right now because I don't have the card backs yet. I'm going to load a different one that I set up. It's going to be here. So I'm going to, again, select Cloud, Upload. So that's for the card faces. They're going to be on that template. If you want unique backs, so every card has a different back, you're going to select this button and then upload the same file but with your card backs. So same grid with all the card backs to it. If you have one card back for all your cards, you just need an image of that. So here I have a single image that is saved as the deck back. I'm going to upload the back here. The width and height are standard. It's always a 10x7 grid that you're putting them onto, whether or not you fill it. That doesn't matter. This is what matters though. You need to tell it exactly how many cards you put in, which I believe is 35.
What if your game has more than 70 cards?
If you have more than 70 unique cards, you're going to have to just do multiple files and you can combine them into one deck.
Oh, they can be shared, like inside the application, you can combine them into one deck.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Once they're in, so you're just going to have to do it as a couple and then combine all the decks. If you have duplicates of cards, you can upload only one of each copy, and then you can literally copy paste them in the application as many times as you need. So by the less uploads you do, the smaller your game size is going to be and the faster it's going to load. The sideways button here is for if you have horizontal cards that you want to orient appropriately when people do the use Alt to zoom in on it, then you want to check sideways. For vertical cards, you don't check it. Sideways cards, you could also just pre-orient when you put them in the grid. There's a secondary grid that lets you do different card shapes. But if you put them all in the grid so that they're all sideways and you want them to alt zoom to see face up, you're just going to click sideways so that it knows to reorient them for you. And then I'm just going to click import on that, and it put this deck right here. I'm going to just move it off the board so it's a little easier to see. So here I have my 35 card deck. I'm going to shuffle it real quick just so you can see a couple different cards. I can draw them one at a time. I'm going to flip them. And you can see how it put all the different faces right onto the cards for me. The borders are off because I did a terrible job cutting them before saving them as images. I'm sure you will all do better. So that is a deck. You all need to go back over here. Dice, there's a bunch of dice options in here. So I could grab a D20 and I can go change its color and its size. So I could, whatever size you need. So that's how you're gonna get most of your dice. If you need to do a custom, it's going to be in the same folder here that you got by going to Steam. Instead of going to Deck Builder, you're gonna go to Dice Templates. You're gonna open whichever one is appropriate for you and paste the images of all your sides over the appropriate numbers. And it's gonna work exactly the same as loading a deck, as far as you'll go to custom dice. And then you would select what size it is and put your file right here. Other things we can do, tiles and tokens are approximately the same, except that tiles have an option to be boxes, hexes, circles, or rounded. For some reason, tokens don't. They're always square. They're just thicker cards. So I could do an example tile if we want to do something round. I'm going to take this. It's gonna be a little awkward because it's a square image that I'm just putting on a round thing. I will put the same one on the sides.
So those are the only tile shapes available. For instance, you can't do polyomino tiles.
Not through here. There is this model option where if you 3D model anything, there's a way to import it. I
Okay.
don't know how to do that because I don't do 3D modeling.
Thank you.
Here I'm going to select stackable. That lets you like put a bunch of tiles on top of each other, and then I'll just import. So obviously this is not an ideal image to put on a round tile, and I knew that, but you can make one of these things. So here, if I were to highlight it, and I can just copy, and then I can just hit Control V as many times as I want. So if I needed 30 tokens, I don't know how many I just made, but there's a bunch of these. That's the easiest way if you need like a lot of something, is to just put it in once and copy it. So like these cards that are supposed to be identical, I could have put in only one time and then started pasting it to then put them into the same deck. I'm just going to stack them all. I can put them all on here, highlight it, hit G, that groups it. This is now going to act as one deck. So if I shuffle it, the whole thing is going to shuffle. Players will access the game in whatever form you save it as. So as much stuff as you put in here, wherever you move it, if I leave this token lying around somewhere and save it like that, that's where it's going to load back in. one funky thing. So in here, you have player pawns. So if you just need like generic meeples or anything, you can change the color of all these and the size once they're in. So you can get whatever colors you need, as many as you want. If you need cubes, they're under blocks, and it's called red square, but it's actually a little cube. Again, you can change it as much as you need, make it whatever size you want. All cubes.
Can you change the color of the cubes?
Yes. Same way, I'll just go pull a new one in. So I can go over here, I can say color tint and choose wherever I want on this thing here. So I could have this one and then I could copy it and then change the color of this one over here. So, yep. They're fairly easy to edit as much as you need. The one other thing, the last thing to go over is zones. So this is where I can create like where people's hands are going to go. I can turn on the hand zone. So if I want there to be a purple player, yellow player, oh wait, no, they go away when you click them. So if I were to do that, and then those are the colors I have. Let me explain that a little cleaner. So over here, whichever one you select is what you're using. So if you turn on the zone tool, you're going to be editing zones until you click back on the grab. So here I can click hands and do hand zones. So I can add it however I want. If I want a really big hand zone here, I can do that. I can remove the one that's here. Anytime you click a zone, it removes it. You can add a fog of war if you want players to not see that and then be able to remove it. Like, so you can run D&D in here. The only time I've used zones is we created, to play Witch's Coven, we created a zone where we could put the cards face down and then you can control who can see it. So once you have a zone, you can right click on it and select which player color is allowed to see in it. So if I had it here, only the orange player can see what's inside that box. So if we put a cube in there, we won't be able to see it. If we become, well, we'll be green. And if we go back to zones, right click and change that to green, now we can see that cube. So that's a way to handle some hidden information. I think the last thing I want to go over right now is saving. So you're just going to go to games, save and load, call it whatever you want up here, and hit create. It's going to create a save file, which then when you go to games, should be, oh, it didn't save it. Hold on. Games, save. There we go. So then I could load it and it's going to load right in what we have here. Even once you leave Tabletop Simulator, that's still going to be there under your saves down here. So like this is the one I loaded probably 6 months ago now. I don't know why the table's floating, but it doesn't matter. I think that is pretty much everything I have as far as tools. So if people have questions, I can go over those things.
One question about hidden information. Sometimes games will have cards on the table that can be glanced at by a player or multiple players, and so it wouldn't make sense to put it in a player's hand. Can a player flip it and look at it just themselves without everybody seeing the flip?
If you mouse over it and hold down Alt and Shift, you peek at the card. Everyone will get a little indicator that you peeked at it, and you will see the front of the card.
Thank you.
So in order to get playtesters to be able to get your game, you don't need to like publish it or put it on the workshop. You just need to save it for yourself, host it, and then they can play.
Yep.
Awesome.
And everything has to go through Tabletop Simulator servers. There's no way to directly connect to a host?
I don't know how the servers work.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
And how do you grant another player access to the game that you've saved in your own thing?
So when we go back out here, I'm just gonna go to the main menu and try and show you. When I go to create, I would hit multiplayer. I would create a server name and a password and how many players I want, create it, and then I'm gonna load my game in here. And then anyone that joins that, their name will appear up here. They'll be able to select a spot at the table and they're in the game. So to join it from the main menu, instead of going to create, you would just go to join, and it's going to pop up with all the servers. So you'd be able to search then, it's gone now, but you'd be able to search the server name and just double click it and put in the password.
And the server name is just happens to be the one, like if
It's whatever you call it.
Oh, I see.
So you could call it John's Playtest.
What about collisions with other people using Tabletop Simulator?
What do you mean?
Only one way to find out.
Yeah, I was like, what if somebody else tries to use the same server name as yours?
I have no idea.
Okay.
We leave this as an exercise for the viewer.
Yeah.
So then, if you wanted to do blind playtesting on Tabletop Simulator, someone would have to have your login, so they can go to your saved files and load your game and invite other players?
Presumably, if you're doing blind playtesting, you still want to be able to watch it, so you could still host it and just not take a seat at the table. So where it goes to select color, you would just not select a color.
But if I wanted somebody else to playtest when they had time, and I didn't care if I was there or not, I just wanted their feedback, someone would need to be able to get into my account.
I might be able to answer at least part of that question.
Yeah, please go for it.
If I could steal a screen share.
Yeah, let me figure out how to undo it. Help. How do I actually?
How can I bop you?
There we go. I got it.
Okay, sweet. And I don't know how to do this from, like, you're gonna have to do a little bit of Googling. I'll just show you what the end result looks like because it's been 4 years. So this, I don't know if you can see this. Hold on, friggin'. Oh God, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Jamie 3.
Yeah, I'm Jamie 3.
Oh.
Corporate Raiders. Can you see this yet?
We still see you right now.
Okay. Share. Sorry, I'm doing this from the other computer. Okay, can you see this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I see it.
Okay, good. Good. So this Corporate Raiders thing. So this is on the Steam Tabletop Simulator. And so, or Steam Workshop, I'm sorry. The Steam Workshop. So if you have a Steam Workshop account, you can actually like save your own games to this, and like the people can subscribe to it. And so this is what you need to get their stuff to like add in to load from their end. So like if you want to have a blind playtest and you don't want to keep hosting it, you can set it up on the workshop, they can subscribe to it, and then they'll always have it and be able to play it. So this will take some.
It does end up being public though that way.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yep, that is absolutely true. Anybody can go to this right now and like pull it up and subscribe to it, but it exists.
Does anyone know if you can just share the the save file or something?
I did not find a way to do it when I tried, but I'm not great with computers, so that doesn't mean it's not possible.
How much does the Steam Workshop subscription cost? Like, is that extra? Is it a subscribe? Do you have to pay per game, or what's that?
It's just a free community service. Anyone can upload and download stuff from there for free.
A few games cost extra. Those tend to be the official copies. Pretty much everything on the workshop is non-official versions of the games.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. Does anybody have any other questions?
Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. This is amazing.
I will be available regularly if people will have more questions as they go to upload their game or need help with that. So let me know.
Awesome. All right. So moving on from this, we've got Gino. Gino, are you still with us? Yeah, good. There you are.
Yep.
Sorry. There's a giant Hollywood squares of people here. I think you should have screen share control. So whenever you're ready, we can talk about Tabletopia.
Okay. I have no idea what I'm doing in Zoom. So,
We can see your screen now.
okay. For better or worse. All right. I was trying to load things up, and Tabletopia was having a fit. So we'll see if it works here.
It probably has too many people on it, like Tabletop Simulator
Yeah,
does.
like they said the other day that they're working on getting more hardware for it, but I don't know how fast they're going to be. But so I have a incognito window here in which I was going to show how to do things. You can just log in. You create an account, sign up, and you can create an account with an email or password, or with like Facebook, Twitter, or sign in through Steam. There's a Steam version of it, but it really just loads it up in a browser in Steam. So it's probably easier to do it in a browser. Let's say I log in with like Facebook. I'm in incognito, that's why. And then I already have it in here. So let's see here. So say we wanted to play Scythe. Now, if you're just a base user, you can play solo. There's Hot Seat, which allows you to play 2 players in English, and it has Crimean and Nordic. But then, like more players, you have to pay for the subscription to be able to play with more players. Hot Seat. Playing online, you can do that, and it'll create. And you
Gino,
can only
quick question.
play.
Gino, quick question. Pietro here. I think that Hot Seat, I just read up on it that it's only to play on the same desktop, right? On the same computer,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to play with someone remotely, or online, you have to go with that online option, right?
Yeah, and they'll come in like the seat that you like. There were 2 seats here, and they can come in. So you click start there, and it'll load here if it'll load. And as far as like using it to play, it's very similar to Tabletop Simulator. There are less features. The physics aren't as physicsy. So like you don't end up like throwing things around and stuff like that. Because it's done in a browser, it does take some time to load. And this is not. It's not that my internet is slow. It's that the servers are slow currently.
Can I toss in a quick question here while we're waiting?
Yeah.
On Tabletop Simulator, it seems like everything is under the control of the players. Nothing is automatic. For instance, if you need to draw 3 cards, you have to draw 3 cards. On Tabletopia, is there any built-in adjudication? Are the rules built into the games, or is it like Tabletop Simulator where everybody has to know what to do? If that question makes sense.
It is like Tabletop Simulator in that you move the pieces around yourself, you keep track of everything.
So if you try to put something where it doesn't go, it doesn't get bounced.
Right. No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And man, I didn't know this was going to take this long to load this.
Like we said before, the time is ripe for the board game harvest, right?
For better or worse.
Did you say harvest? I don't have 2 food for each of my family members yet. I'm not ready.
Agro-mendicant strategy?
If anybody's got any jokes and they want to do some stand-up, now's the time.
Did you know I used to do stand-up?
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I moved from stand-up to improv, but I did stand-up for about 6 years, and I've been doing improv for like 2 or 3 years now.
Oh, I totally thought you were still doing both. Huh, okay.
No, I haven't done stand-up in a long time, but I've been thinking about getting back into it. I have written a few jokes, but I'm not going to workshop them here.
I only have one joke for the group. Did all of you know that? Did all of you know that Don Juan is short for Donald Wonald? Think about it.
Why did the loading bar go so much faster the second Jamie decided to tell a
Knew what was
joke?
happening.
Get us
My
out of
my
that
skill.
punchline.
The game might not want to hear the joke. Also, I have an instance of Tabletop Sim open right now if anyone wants me to experiment with something.
Okay, so the first time you load in, it's going to give you a tutorial of like what you can do here. It's all very similar to Tabletop Simulator. Zoom in, zoom out, right click to rotate or tilt the camera. You can move WASD or hold down to click and drag. Hold down the left click to click and drag. Let's see here. You can, some of these I haven't even, like if you're over something, you can hover over it and hit spacebar to, I've used this mostly for my own game, so I'm not real sure what the basic stuff. So you can do different camera views, which is interesting. So if you hit like one, it'll give you this camera view, which is like your basic starter camera view. But you can say I want to come over here and I want to be able to see like this track. I can zoom in here and I can hit shift 2, go back to 1, hit 2 again to go back to that. Let's see here. So space brings that up. Z will zoom in, and I don't know if you, yeah, it'll just be wherever your hand is. Let's not do full screen. Mouse over and hit the question mark will give you what you can do with that piece. Q and E also does the rotate, like Tabletop Simulator. You can lock and unlock the pieces so that they don't move. Let's see here. You can drag objects into your hand. So like I want a card here, I'll drag it into my hand. I think I can actually, nope. Guess I can't take that into my hand. Let's see here. I'm trying to think anything that's different than Tabletop Simulator. It's really very similar, except the physics aren't there. So you just drag and drop and cards. You pick up one, flip it with an F.
Is there any snapping in this?
You can snap to objects in creating that. So it depends on whoever's creating it, whether or not they're snapping. I don't know if there's anything that's going to be on this let me see if I can get all these cards and so double click gets you the whole stack, single click gets you a single card. You hover over it until it's orange and then it'll drop the card in it. Double click and see if I try to, yeah, it snapped it to that section of the board. And you would set that up with a magnetic map is what it's called when you set up the board. I haven't done a whole lot of that, so I'm not real sure how to do that. I just know that's how that works. Let's see here.
So on that magnetic map, are you saying that you can map a specific item to a specific spot on the board?
So I'm not real sure. I don't think it's specific items. I think it's like cards are going to map to this section of the board. Let's see here.
So I actually did this last week if you want me to jump in.
Yeah.
So when you create the magnetic map, you're telling it where the center of a component goes.
Okay, great.
And you can tell it, I think, squares or circles, and where the center is. But it will try to map. I think it'll try to snap multiple things to that center point. The other thing is you can also give it an orientation. So if you want it to reorient when you put it down, you can tell it how to do that too.
Yeah, I bet this
Can
is...
you pre-save the camera views? Like if you create the game in it, can you preset what the camera views are going to be, or is it set by the players?
You can set the initial camera, but not the extra ones. And we can get into that when we're ready to talk about.
But I
Are
believe
there
that
other
as a
questions
player,
about?
I believe that as a player, you can save a couple of angles for yourself.
Yeah. So like if that, like it said, like 1 to 9, you can set your cameras and do like 9 different. What questions are there about like actual like playing things here? Like it's very similar to Tabletop Simulator, so I'm not. It does not have like the extra stuff like drawing or text, or you can't flick things. But it's is there any dice here? Like you can right click on. I guess since I haven't started the game, I can't. No. Why is it not letting me right click and do things? I can click and.
Can you set up hidden information zones the way you can in Tabletop Simulator?
I don't believe so.
But the back of your hand, the cards in your hand show their backs, right? Just like Tabletop Simulator.
Trying to remember. I think you don't actually see what's in their hand. I've played this my card game with a friend, and yeah, you don't see the card. You'll see, like if I bring it out here, you would see. I think you don't even see the card as it's being brought out until it's been dropped. I don't know. I would kind of need a second player in here to be able to test that, I guess. But just like you can change your color and change like doing that changes which seat. Like you can leave your seat, and then it'll lock up apparently. Yeah, that's fun. Let's see here. All right. So we can get into the creating a game section of it, I guess. And then once we've created a game, then we can do things. So once you're logged in, you can go to the workshop and hit create a new game. And it's going to give you the option to, and you can put all this information in here. You'll want to have all this information in there when you do available to all users, but you can't do that without contacting them and to make a public game. You have to actually like work with Tabletopia, I believe. But as far as like your private games for personal use only, you can put whatever you want in here. So like I've got a game I've been working on. So you do like different. So it's like a strategy game, I guess. And you can put like number of players and play time and things like that. You can add pictures to like what it looks like, and like a box art kind of thing. You can add rules, and they'll show up in that menu up at the top. Yeah, that still doesn't work. But you can just save this. And so once you're in here, you get to create setups. If you are a free user, you get 1 game and 2 setups. And so like you can create a setup here, create like, let's see here, so like 2 to 4 players, and like victory points. If you have Workshop Pro, you can do mobile versions of it as well. We'll say this is the default setup. And so what you're going to do is you're going to, the first thing you want to do is to, I suppose you add objects to your folder of what you're going to use in the game. And then you edit the setup and put things in. So say I want to create an object. Can I open this in a new tab? I guess I can just do this from here. So the options of objects to create, there's single cards and then a card deck, counters, which are for like victory points, heals, money, things like that you click through instead of. Here, let's look at the featured objects here and see. So there's a bunch of things that you can just use their objects for. So there are bags like there are in Tabletop Simulator. And they do the exact same thing, just hold things and randomize them. Let's see here, blocks, like, and say I want these things in my game. So I'm gonna need like some pawns, I guess. So these are like 24 or millimeter pawns, I guess is what they are, and the other ones are 40. Let's say I want like a blue one, an orange one, a white one, and a pink one for colorblind fun. So you copy it to your folder, and it'll say successful. Then you can come back here and say we want to edit the setup. We'll hit edit setup here or up there. It had the option, and it's going to load a blank setup, and it'll have the objects you've selected down here. So then you can drag out what you want. It'll load it in, and then you can then do things to it. Like you can copy and paste. I believe it's just actual Control-C, Control-V works. May not. I guess you have to right-click on it and go to duplicate, and you can tell it how many times to, and it's going to stack them. That's fun.
That's, I think, my favorite behavior that I've seen it do so far.
But you can hold down Shift and click over things to be able to drag things as a group. Let's see here. What other things can you do here? You can increase and decrease the size. And make them bigger. Allows you to lock them in place so they don't get moved. Unlock. Okay, that's a neat, unexpected. So the physics aren't like Tabletop Simulator, but I guess there are some physics, and there's collision and things like that. But you can, let's see here. We'll remove those. So once you've added objects, you can drag it out on there. And so say I want to do my own objects. I'll create objects. Say I want to do a game board. Let me see what I got here. Yeah, so let me extract this real fast. And then so you select your image, downloads. And so say I want this one here. and this is where you would set that magnetic map. But I've never actually used it, so I don't really know what you need to do here. But I assume you select, and there's like a tutorial blog post or something that explains it. But you can select what it interacts with, and you'd have like you'd use an image, I believe, that lines up with that image for the board, and things would then stick once you, and you can change the size. I find that when it says that 10 pixels equals 1 millimeter, and then they tell you it's like 16.5 meters by, like the size doesn't seem to be exactly like. So let's see here. This is SIU board 1. You just hit save, and it's going to warn you that you can't do things that are copyrighted. And then let's see here, and it's going to go through and publish the. It takes some time for it to actually do its thing. We'll refresh this. It still says it's publishing, and there's a queue for that. So I suppose if there's a bunch of people building games at the time, then it's gonna be slower. Usually I do this at like 2 in the morning, so I'm not used to there being a queue. Let's see here. Back to this. So you can set the colors of players. You can go to the seat camera. So say I want the blue player to be over here. I can say, okay, you're going to look from here, and you can save the seat camera, and say I want the, I don't know, I have weird colors here, so we'll pink over here, and I should be able to change the color. It does not have like a wide variety of colors, but I can save that seat camera, and then I can just flip back between them. And this is what they're going to see from when they load up the game. When they're in that seat, they will see from this angle. That'll be the number 1 camera on the keyboard. All right, so let's see if this is. It says it's published. See here, you can duplicate and delete. Edit, you can go back, and it'll have to go through the publishing again, so we're not going to do that. Bookmark things. Let's see here. Do I have to actually add this to my objects, or does it? Nope. Okay, when you create it, it puts it in your objects. You can move that into that folder, so they're all in the same folder. And then you can come over here. Say I want to save that first, and then I just reload it. And the board's going to be down here. And you can just put it here, and say I can lock the board so that things are in the right space.
And you also scale the board from the tabletop?
Yeah, so you gotta unlock it. You can do it like 50% bigger.
Great, thanks.
So yeah, the table itself, you can change the table size. It's always going to be square, rectangle, or whatever, but you can make it longer or wider or whatever. There are objects here. Let's see here. Featured objects. There are different tables. So you can do like round tables or wood, light table, red table, blue table, whatever. And the way you would do that is, let's see here. Say I want this wood green, copy it to that, and then go back and reload. And I can do that. Just drag out there and it'll put it there. I may have to load the blue table again into my things to get it back to that. But then there's skyboxes as well. Give you some sort of environment to that. So say I want the Oriental landscape here. You can add that. Reload. I'm a little fast on the reload, apparently. Or I didn't finish this. Action successfully completed. And you can always go here, and they'll have the featured things. Let's see here. So you can go to like skyboxes here and drag that out, and it'll give you a background like that. Or like Scythe had its own background, green Scythe. Yeah, so it was like that color with the board being, you can see where the board is there, and then the background around it. Let's see here. So you're basically adding objects and then coming from here, dragging them in and using them. So say I wanted to do like a deck of cards. You can do, say I can do all 4 of these, and it'll make them into cards, and they'll be the shape of the cards. So the size of the objects will be defined by the front size image, and the back side will adjust accordingly. And you can change like the way it'll look in your hand as far as like size goes. And it'll give each one a name based on the file name when you load it. So I don't really have an image to use for the back of it. We'll just hit publish here, and it'll use a default. We'll let those publish, and they'll appear here, and then they'll eventually show up around here. There are, let's see here, featured. Where are the not tokens? Is it under accessories? Yeah, counters. I like this about Tabletopia in that, like, say I want to keep track of victory points, I can just bring that out here, and then you can modify it up or down. So say I want to start with like 12 health or something, then I can do that and set that to be let's see here. What other things is this done? Yeah, it looks like that's done. Maybe not. Oh, because it's not in the folder. That's why. So like they're going to be based on the size of the the picture, but these are actually cards instead of, so like I can hover over here and draw, flip it, and this is like the default background if you don't put a picture for the back of the card. Let's see here. Let me, like, that's the basics of creating things. And let me log out here, and then I'll log in with, I've got like 5 different accounts that have different games on them. And that's the one I want, but I can't remember the password. Log into my main one here, and we'll go to the workshop. So like I've got 2 different setups here, and for each setup you can do like a different setup here. So that was redundant. So this one here is going to be, that's a different game. So I've got, it's named Dice Kingdoms, but like Dice Kingdoms here, I've got, so once you've gone through and set everything up, you can come back here and hit publish, and it'll go through and run for a bit, and then it'll come up and it'll have like this test button here. And you can actually play the game. So and you can give people this link up at the top, and then come in and join this particular load in and play with you. That's probably my favorite part, is that you can just give people a link and they'll come right in, and it'll load like that. Let's see here. And then there are play zones, so you can create a play zone. And I don't think there's really any limit to number of those, but it uses a setup. So it's going to create a play zone, and it'll have a URL. You can enable it, and then for Tabletopia users or everyone, and say you want the second setup. So we just created that, and then you should be able to just take this URL and it'll create a room, and then you can follow that link and everyone else can come in like a normal game on Tabletopia, and you can start it. So this is how you would like basically give it to somebody to play, is give them that link, and they just follow the link, and so like I got see here, so I can leave my seat here and it can break. Okay. It is not liking it when you leave your seat. That's what I tried to do in Scythe and it messed up. But you should be able to leave your seat and then take another seat, and you don't have to be in the same, just like and how do I make this? Let me close that.
Not having an account, I tried to join Gino and it just doesn't let me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I have to actually like create an account. I'm a spectator right now, but I can't see how to get in there. I trust you though.
Oh, you went to this link here?
Yep.
And you can invite players to it.
Oh, there it is. You have to continue and take a seat.
And yeah. Or let's see here. Send a link, copy the URL or copy the room number. My dinner's ready, apparently. But that's what questions do you guys have? I know I'm kind of all over the place, but that's kind of the basics of it.
Andrea mentioned that the learning curve for Tabletop Simulator was pretty steep. What do you feel about the learning curve here? Did it take a lot of effort to get on top of it?
So I think Tabletop Simulator, the learning curve is learning how to control things. And if you know Tabletop Simulator, then it's pretty much the same for Tabletopia. Only there's less things you can do in Tabletopia, so it's not as quite as confusing. As far as like making things, if you have images and things, then you can just load images into the object creation stuff and then mess with that and load it in, and it's just drag things in and put it out in the order you want things.
Are those images JPEGs and PNGs, or do they accept other file types?
I'm not sure. Let's see here. Let's say we wanted to do a card. PNG or JPG. I don't know. I use Component Studio for all my stuff, and it just spits out images that I can just load into things like this. But if you're making your own images, I can see how that'd be a little different.
So when is the Component Studio tutorial?
Oh, I suppose I could do that at some point. I probably know that a little better than I know Tabletopia. What other questions do we have here?
The list on the phone. We're all.
So, question to both of you, or actually to anybody who's used both of these platforms. Do you have a feel as to whether there are enough generic components available in the platform to design a game without having to, say, import images? I'm thinking of someone like, I don't know, myself, whose artistic skills stop with colored pencils on paper and don't quite extend to things like making JPEGs and PNGs. Could you prototype and, make a generic component game using what's on the system?
Yes. It depends what you want. If you want any custom cards, it gets a little harder, but beyond that, I mean, you can work. They have a deck of cards already available, at least in Tabletop Simulator. I assume here too, you can just get regular playing cards. And if you are incompetent at art like me, I made the card backs literally using paint. I took the paint bucket, dumped a color across it, and added text, and it works.
That sounds like my skill level. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so like 54 card deck there. I think Tabletop Simulator probably be a little easier. Like because like for when I'm making a game in real life, I'll go to my shelf of games and I'll be like, okay, I need some cubes, and I'll be like, I need some, I don't know, like I'll be like, I need some boat meeples or something. And I'll just go grab from games. With Tabletop Simulator, you can just load things from the workshop and take the bits you need and put it into whatever you're doing there. So I think that's going to be easier. This doesn't have, since, I don't know, Tabletop Simulator's more like the Wild West kind of thing as far as like what they don't like get you for putting copyrighted stuff up. They just Like if somebody makes a claim or something about it, then they'll take you down. But anybody can just scan whatever game or whatever and put it onto. I used to do that where I'd get a new game and I'd scan it in and put it on Tabletop Simulator and then publish it to the workshop.
Hey, Gino, this is Tim. I have a question. So I see you have cubes 10, cubes 15, cubes 20, and cubes 8. I assume those are like 10 millimeters, 8 millimeters, 20,
Yep.
and 15. Can you do custom sizes? I know in Tabletop Simulator you can just transform it to make it larger or smaller.
So let's see.
Can you do
here.
that here?
I think you would have to make your own. Let's see here. I know you can, not as easily as you can in Tabletop Simulator. Let's see, is there a token tile? Maybe token would do it if you put in maybe not.
Yeah, it looks like that's round.
Yeah, and it's round until you, because it's going to take the size of whatever your image is, the size and shape of the image.
Oh, okay.
So like you might be able to do something that way.
Seems like it might be really good if you have like custom pieces. I'm thinking like
I can add that in, and yeah. And you'd be able to do something like that, like polyomino kind of stuff that's like just a token. You'd be able to do that with the pictures. Like, so, like say I just had a picture that was like L-shaped, and I put it here, it'll give me an L-shaped token.
That's heartening, says the guy with a polyomino game.
Let's see here. So if I go back to objects and I go to, I said Sayu, right? Why is this? Oh, there's the cube. So I click on that. Does not give me the option to edit. I was thinking maybe it would.
That's fine. I mean, they give you a lot of options for cube sizes, so was just something I was wondering if you think your board needs to be just slightly bigger to fit all your pieces on it or whatnot.
No, I mean you can.
I thought you were can change the size once it's on the board though.
Right, you can scale it up.
Oh, okay, that's good. Because that's how you do it in Tabletop Simulator, is you just put it out there and then you click transfer.
Yeah.
Seems so hard to decide like which one to go with, because I mean, this one is so smooth looking and the design is so, both the way the back end and the front end is so smooth and clean, but the pricing structure is not as good for a designer, although it's kind of nice that you can just invite somebody to play and they don't have to have an account or buy. I mean, they don't have to pay anything, which is good.
Quick thing regarding like the polyominoes question. I tested it out, but in Tabletop Sim, if you import a transparent image, it'll try to make like a polygon that wraps around it. So if you had like a hexagon, it would try to wrap it around as good as it could.
Oh, nice. So if you just make, but it will not do the polyomino shape, but a polygon?
Well, he made like I just had a random picture of one of my friends that was transparent cut out, and I put it in, it outlined it basically, or like it cut it out kind of.
Okay, so it cut it out according to the transparency, not according to the best fit polygon.
It generates a polygon around it. It's meant that aligns with the transparency.
And I think that's how the tokens on this will work. Like you have to have an image that has transparency around the. If you just have like a square image, a rectangular image that has an L in the middle of it, it's not gonna. It'd end up being a rectangular image. So it'd have to be like a transparent PNG or whatever to give you that polyomino shape. If there's not any other questions, that may be all I have.
Of the people here who have used both systems extensively, although there may not be that many since we're all here to learn about them, do people have a strong preference for one over the other?
I know Carl made a post about that in the Discord the other day. He used Tabletopia for a long time and just switched over to Tabletop Simulator recently. I would recommend reading his post and or reaching out to him.
Yeah, I think I did see that. I'll do that.
I also posted in the Discord, I asked about what rights the two companies would have over your own custom materials that you put up if you load up your own game. And apparently there are clauses in Tabletopia's stuff where they can license out the things that you put on there.
Wow.
So
I feel like that probably only applies to like the things that you are making for public use. I'm not sure that would apply to like just the things like this.
Yeah, I'm uncertain because I did ask about that. Someone was thinking about putting it up for classroom use, and the school team had to pore over the contract, and they came across that clause. And just because it has that at all, I think I'm gonna avoid it. Just for like my own, like the fully fleshed out card frame that I've designed and all that stuff. I think using a more simple prototype that are basically like placeholders for the actual final images on Tabletopia, you'd be fine. But I would just be nervous about like my self-published route, like about to publish game being put up on Tabletopia and then someone else claiming rights to it just because I put it up on the website.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think if it's more polished, I would use Tabletop Simulator, but for throwing things together pretty quickly, I found that Tabletopia is not. Tabletopia is pretty good for that, and all my prototype things are pretty rough. So
I do know Max posted something about the two. I think it was Max Seidman in the Discord where he was saying that if you are playing with other designers, Tabletop Simulator is usually fine because most other designers already have it. But Tabletopia, because it allows you to play for free. If you're playing with people that don't already have one of the softwares, Tabletopia is easier because now they don't have to pay to play your game.
I feel like at least in the upcoming months, we're going to see more gamers in general who aren't designers buying Tabletop Simulator for what it's worth.
Oh, I 100% agree. Is it on sale right now? I don't know if Tabletopia is running a sale, but
I don't think they're running a sale. I paid $20 for it Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's normally 20 or 30, but they oftentimes they oftentimes run a sale for Tabletop Simulator for it to be 10. So I was lucky enough to pick it up when that happened, but I do know that there's a lot of other like tabletop softwares, a lot of D&D stuff right now that's on super sale, so it might be pretty soon.
Also, a slightly more selfish reason, but I own a VR headset and Tabletop Sim has VR support.
Yeah.
Though it's obviously like not a deciding factor, just more of a neat thing about it.
It might be.
Have you tried it? Does that work? Well,
I have tried it once before with some friends, but the connection was slow, so it didn't really work very well. But it was interesting because they all played normal, but I actually had they could see the model or something in my head and hands floating around the table, which was kind of weird. I wouldn't say it's any better than just using a desktop though for this kind of thing.
I think Tabletop Simulator in general is a little fiddly, and then adding in VR probably makes it even a little more so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like more like a gimmick.
Does anyone have any ideas about the system requirements for the two? I have a friend who's a very good playtester who told me today that he's having trouble with the simulator on his old Mac. Is it because of the less physics? Is Tabletopia easier on the system?
I don't know. I do know that the Steam store says that Tabletop Simulator is not Catalina compliant, but I have Catalina and it is. That doesn't answer your question, but that's a sideways other point I wanted to share.
Looking at the system requirements on Steam, it says 4 gigs of RAM for the Mac. Maybe old Mac doesn't have 4 gigs.
Yeah, he's got an old Mac.
Shannon, the other thing to consider, and I don't know when he tested this, but Andrea was saying yesterday that she was having a lot of trouble with Tabletop Simulator, thinking that it could be that their servers are overloaded.
Right.
And she was saying, like, in the course of 15 minutes, she ended up getting kicked 3 times. So I don't know if he just maybe tested it during one of those times.
It could be.
Also, depending on the game, certain games with more bits take a lot longer to load, and there's a lot more things in memory. If it's a game with a lot of stuff, then it probably exceeds that 4 gigabyte RAM suggestion.
It also depends on your computer and your internet service. I have one friend who was basically unable to play when I was hosting the server. We tried recently with him hosting the server, and it sped up a lot for him and slowed down moderately for me. So that might be another thing to experiment, is who's hosting the servers.
Thanks. That's a good idea.
Darn computers.
This isn't about these two pieces of software, but has anybody used the Board Game Arena to build anything yet? I was looking into that. That's like a light version. It's like a 2D version that allows you to build these sort of board games.
I didn't know things were buildable on there.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden in where it is, but they have like a whole creator sort of walkthrough and ability. You have to like download their stack. It's like for you kind of have to have some front end development knowledge like PHP and JavaScript, but I think they have some easier versions as well. But
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, Gino, thanks so much for sharing all that with us. That was amazing. Andrew,
Thanks a
you
lot,
too.
Gino. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah, here. I'm gonna officially stop the recording here.